Hi, so I've released a couple of open source tools recently, and I thought I'd just do a quick screencast running through them, hopefully show you some things that might be useful, and yeah, just take you through the things I've put out recently. So the first one is distra, which I've sort of described as a reverse proxy and static website hosting tool. It's really built for people who are comfortable with the command line and have Node.js installed and are kind of in that ecosystem. But I'll just show you how it works. The first thing it does is it's a static website hoster. So that means you tell it about a directory and tell it about a host name and like a URL that you want to access that directory by, and it will host that for you. So I've got a temporary directory here. I'm just going to create one called my website. And then jump in there and create a file called index.html, and I'll just open that folder up. Oops, I've got some stuff open here. Open that up and just say hello world in here. And now if I wanted to host this, just to access it to check out the file, I've got a number of options. So the first thing I could do would be open index.html, and it'll open that up. But we've got this horrible URL here, and also there's some JavaScript things that wouldn't work. Like AngularJS won't work from file URLs, and neither will routing if you're doing HTML5 routing where you aren't using hashbangs in the URL. Then again, this won't work either. So distra will lets you use a custom URL running on any port you like, so that you can host a directory like this. So to get distra installed, you do npm install -g distra. So I have this installed already, so it should be nice and quick. But when you run that, it will download a whole lot of things, like it's doing now, and then install that globally, and then you'll be able to run it on the command line. So that's what the -g there, npm install -g installs something globally so that you have a tool available to you. Now I'm getting a couple of warnings there because I'm on an upgraded version of Node, but basically it's fine. So now distra is available to me here, and I can run it just like that. Just say distra, and you'll see it's running something, and it's keeping things updated. So you'll see it saying proxy listening on 9876 and static listening on 9999. You don't need to worry about 9999, but the proxy listening means that it's waiting for connections on a particular port, and it will use the host name that you use to decide which folder to serve. So if I open up a new window in this current directory and say distra, in fact I'm not going to do that because right now distra, as you see here, it says you'll need to manually update your host file. So distra ideally is run as sudo, so it's run as root, which means it can edit your host file and means you don't have to go to the host file to update it. You can just use the URL straight off. So I'm just going to jump back to this window and start distra up using sudo. So sudo distra 80, that starts distra on port 80. And I'll just pop in my password. And now we can see it says proxy listening on port 80, static listening on 9999, which doesn't really make a difference, and host file updated. So now distra is listening on port 80 for connections to it, and I can tell it that I want to serve the website I've just created, just that little HTML file, on a URL that's just my-website. So I'm just going to do distra add, and distra has some intelligent defaults, so it knows that if you just run distra add, that you want to use the folder you're currently in as the host name, and so the name of the directory, sorry, you're currently in as the host name, and the kind of path to it as the folder that wants to be served. So if I just say distra add, it says host my website pointing to, and then the file that I'm currently, or the directory that I'm currently in. So now I can go to my website here. Ooh, don't want to Google that. And click through to HTTP, and there you can see that the same file is being served, but on a much nicer URL. So that's the most simple usage of distra, and you can customize it for yourself. So let's say I want to serve just website, but this directory, I can say that, and you'll notice it says host website pointing to that directory. So I can again remove this, say website, and it's loaded up the same. And then you can also, the third argument is, or the second argument rather, is the actual path, so I can pick a different folder that I want distra to serve. The other thing it does is reverse proxying. What that means is you can have a server set up on one port and have distra listening on port 80, so you don't need to put the port in the URL, and have it send those requests through. So if I say had a Jekyll server running on port 4000, in fact I'll just fire up like a standard local directory server. So you can see here what I've done is started an HTTP server on port 7890, and it's opened it up, localhost 7890, and we're getting this file. But let's say I don't want to remember that it's 7890 and I just want to be able to access it via the URL. Let's use my website, which I'll just switch back to here. Virgin Media doing a cheeky thing there. So I want to serve serve this server, which is serving the directory on port 7890, but using distra via the URL of my website. The first thing I'll do is tell distra to forget about my website. So distra rm, which will remove the host for the current directory I'm in, and then I'm going to distra add my website and then localhost 7890. So it says host my website pointing to localhost 7890 added, and now my website, same, it's pointing through to this. So you can see when I if I just create some gaps in here, so you can see I refresh this and it's this server that's serving this information. So if you've got a node server that's doing more complicated things, running on say a specific port like what I've got here, which is running on port 8000, and that's my little editor tool, then you can do that. You can just tell it to to point through to this port rather than having to type in localhost 8000, which will take me to the same thing, but not as nice a URL, and you kind of have to remember what port. And if you've got lots of servers running at once, which I quite often do, then distra is really, really useful. The other thing you'll notice is that there's lots of restarting going on here. That's because distra knows when I add a new host and updates itself to update your host file, and also to restart so that you've always got the latest updates. So again, if I head back and then head into my temp directory and make a new folder called another site, cd another site, and then add another site to distra, tell it to serve this directory, you can see that distra restarted straight away, and it knows that it needs to update the host file. So I can now go to another site. It needs to be HTTP. Another site, and it'll pick it up. Now there's no files in there, so it's just saying cannot get, but distra's updated the host file. Otherwise you'd have to go to your host file, which is at I think it's etc /hosts or something. I can't remember exactly where it is, but you would have to go and update another file every time you added something else. So distra does that for you. The last thing is it can tell you about your current configuration. So if I do distra config, this is going to give you a big list of all the sites that I currently use. So we can see there's loads of sites I'm using distra, and you can see there's just loads of different ports going on here. I mean, there's some that are doubled up, but mostly I couldn't remember all these different directories, but I can remember all these URLs, and so distra is really useful for being my memory there. You can find distra online on my GitHub account, which is github.com/foo/distra, and it'd be wicked if you check it out and try it out and submit issues if you find them. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope it's useful.